Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another market breakdown. Today is Monday, December 1st, and we've taken one trade this week. That was GBP AUD. And the reason for taking GBP AUD is the weekly time frame is bullish, but we're currently kind of moving downwards, and we have broken underneath and retested the weekly EMA. Daily time frame is currently bearish. We created a lower low, then we had a shift of structure to the upside, then we pulled back, higher high, higher high, higher high, shift the structure to the downside. So we're currently bearish on the daily time frame, 4-hour time frame. Created a head and shoulders pattern right here, and it is also currently bullish. So we have a lower low. And yesterday, when I broke this down, I basically wanted to see price pull back into the EMA or into some of these previous structures and wicks. And when we opened on Sunday, we pushed directly upwards and rejected that area very, very strongly. And I wasn't convinced that we were done pulling back yet. This could have been a pullback that never really ended until we pulled back completely and then sold. But after seeing this 4-hour bearish engulfing, I was like, all right, seems like we've decided that we're done with the pullback and we are currently heading to the downside. So let's look at some of the other confluences that we have. In general, we have an area of interest, which is a daily area of interest, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 structure points. We have around psychological level, or we had one at 203, and we kind of reacted off of that. On the weekly time frame, price had retested previous structure. Price had retested previous structure. Yeah, Arthur, that's because the markets are closed right now. So every spread is going to be super, super high. If you look back at closer to 8 p.m. Eastern time, then the spreads will be adjusted for open market in session. So, so we have previous structure on the weekly time frame. We have the EMA on the weekly time frame. We have a candlestick rejection. You could maybe consider this a double top and then retesting the neckline. I don't think that I would consider this a pattern. It's not the best looking pattern, but you could maybe consider doing that. Daily time frame, we have this double top that formed right here, sort of. Price rejected the EMA 2 times and basically sold very aggressively. Now, I think that there's still a chance that we might get a daily pullback into this previous structure. But to me, this daily wick that was created kind of already did that. I don't love the fact that we closed with a doji candle. I would have preferred to see price close a little bit more bearish, but I don't think that that's really going to prevent us from doing what we need to do. It's just adding a little bit of a question mark to whether or not we might have another pullback. But on the daily time frame, we could consider this being a pattern. We kind of retested the previous structures or the wicks of the previous structures. We didn't really retest the EMA, and we don't really have a candlestick rejection because we're far away from the area of interest. On the 4-hour time frame, we kind of have a head and shoulders here. I'm not sure if I would count this as a retest of the neckline, since the neckline is like right here, if that makes sense. So like this wick to this body or to these bodies up here would be considered the neckline of this head and shoulders. So this maybe could be considered a retest of the neckline, but these candles here for sure kind of did already do that. We did retest previous structures with those wicks. So I guess that could maybe be considered, confluence for what we're doing. We retested the EMA from the bottom side. So we were above the EMA. Now we're below the 4-hour EMA. And we have this huge bearish engulfing candle, which was our candlestick rejection. We're under the 4-hour EMA. We're under the 30-minute EMA. 30-minute time frame was already bearish. 1-hour time frame. 1-hour time frame was also already bearish. 15-minute time frame did shift bullish, and then we shifted bearish. We basically had, yeah, so we had a 15-minute shift of structure on the 15-minute time frame. And then we have an engulfing candlestick on the 30-minute time frame. So that's kind of when I entered, is right before this 30-minute candle closed. That was my entry signal. It was literally, I was seeing price kind of climb lower and lower. We engulfed and I entered. And from here, price could have either created a small wick to the upside and then had a huge push to the downside, but instead we decided to retest this EMA again. Now, I don't really see any issues with this trade as long as we stay underneath the 30-minute time frame EMA. But if we do break above, that's when we're kind of gonna be a little bit more concerned. Worst case scenario, we push back up to this neckline of the head and shoulders, and then wait for the proper rejection, and then we wait for price to shift back underneath 30-minute EMA. So if that does happen, it might look something like this. We push up, and then we kind of reject, pull back, sell, and then the EMA would just do this, and then we'd be back underneath. So our entry would be like right here. So that's kind of information for you guys. If I personally get taken out of the trade, that's how I would re-enter the trade. All right. Now I didn't really, I might not wicked out. I have a 50 pip stop loss. I might have gotten wicked out, but I usually, not, I didn't today, unfortunately, but I usually remove my stop loss during market close, unless there's a news event which could affect my spreads. No, I'm still in the trade. It didn't take me out. It doesn't look pretty though. Yeah, on my trade locker, it looks completely different. It looks like price already created a lower low because of the way that the market is moving during market close. But it's like the way spreads works is like they have to account for any movement that price might make during the period of market closure, even though the market is open 24/5. Like it doesn't really close. It's the broker that has to transfer everyone's details. They have to collect all those fees and swaps and things like that. So that's how they make their money. All right. Let me go ahead and journal this trade. I didn't do that. Copy my entry price, stop loss. And I'm basically just aiming for a 1 to 2.5. I'm aiming for a 1 to 2.5, which is daily structure. And it's also kind of a weekly structure right here. So just this general area right here. But if it is a weekly rejection and a weekly move to the downside, we could sell for the next week or two. So price could move for a couple of days, 5+ days. So let's make sure that this was journaled correctly. And then we'll get into the analysis. So last month we ended up closing with about 4%. It wasn't the best month. Ended up having more losses than wins. But overall, positive is positive. And that's the whole goal, is ending every month in the green. That was a red month. Every month in the green, no matter, how it goes. So December is a clean slate, and we have our first trade in the books. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Starting with Bitcoin. As expected, Bitcoin is bleeding. Weekly time frame underneath the weekly EMA, daily time frame underneath the daily EMA, 4-hour time frame is now underneath the 4-hour EMA. Now, at this point, price is probably going to pull back to retest the 4-hour EMA. When it's above, it usually sells quite aggressively, retests quite aggressively, and then continues to sell. Or at this point, we might break back above and try to buy back into the daily EMA, potentially maybe into the area of interest. But as of right now, I do expect Bitcoin to keep breaking those lows and losing value. I don't think it's going to lose value forever, but I do think it'll continue to drop. SPX on a daily time frame, on the weekly time frame, bullish on the daily time frame. It is still bearish. 4 hour time frame is bullish. So overall, I do think price is going to continue heading upwards. I just think that we might need a daily pullback, which seems like what is about to happen is the daily pullback. So we have the first red candle, and then we're going to get one or two, maybe more red candles, maybe a doji rejection candle, or just a blue candle to begin the continuation to the upside. So right now, we're kind of right here, we're right here, we're right here, we're right here. What we need is we need this first blue candle, and then we can kind of expect price to have the continuation to the upside. NZD USD, weekly time frame, same exact thing. We're bullish. Daily time frame. Daily time frame here is actually bullish, and 4 hour time frame here is currently bearish. Actually, we created a lower low. On this one, it doesn't look. It is a red candle. It's a red doji candle and a 4 hour shift structure. So 4 hours bearish. We have a red doji candle. Now, it's not US30. This is NASDAQ. Now, there's nothing stopping price from just engulfing and having a continuation to the upside. Kind of like the way it did right here. The way it did right here, you have a red candle, and then bam, you have a bullish engulfing. Just because we have the beginning of a pullback doesn't mean that the pullback's actually going to happen. I just would like to see price retest the area of interest and the EMA on the 4 hour time frame. Here, it looks like we've kind of already had somewhat of a retest of the EMA, but we're also kind of creating this head and shoulders looking pattern up here at the current moment. So if we break back below, we might sell into that area of interest, and then from there on, we might be able to buy. US30, we have a head and shoulders as well. So we have, this is the shoulder, head, shoulder, very lopsided. Now, I don't really think that this is going to be, like it could be an inverted head and shoulders. If you look at it this way, you have your shoulder, you have your head. We could be creating the next shoulder to have buys. I think that would be a little bit more valid than the head and shoulders we're seeing that could be getting created, because that would mean a long-term reversal on US30, and I just don't see that happening. I'm thinking we're just getting a pullback and then a continuation to the upside. And then this little head and shoulders pattern on the 4 hour time frame kind of confirms that we're beginning this shorter pullback, and then we're going to have a larger continuation once price reaches an area it is comfortable with. Once buyers think that price is too cheap, and once sellers think that price is too expensive. So, no, wait. Forget the sellers thing. If sellers think price is too expensive, then they're gonna start to sell. But yeah, once buyers think that price is too cheap, and it's a good place to invest your money. All right, gold. Gold is one that I've been trying to get into a little bit more recently. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is currently on an up leg. It is also bullish. Bullish here, bullish there. 4 hour time frame is currently also bullish. Now, we are above this 4 hour area of interest. I kind of just marked off this structure point, these two structure points, and this one right here. It looks like we're creating somewhat of like a double top here on the 2 hour time frame, the 1 hour time frame. maybe a head and shoulders on the lower time frames. Um, I would be aware of that and maybe take short-term sells into the area of interest. I don't think that price is going to, so yeah, we've broken underneath the 15-minute EMA, and chances of us selling a little bit further are pretty high. So price usually respects the 1 hour EMA. So we might be targeting the 1 hour EMA before seeing any more buying. I had to drink my tea before it gets cold. It's already kind of cold. Dang it. All right. Let us move on. So gold, short term sells, but long term, I expect price to probably break these highs and continue creating higher highs. I don't think we're going to reach 5,000 by the end of December unless something super, super crazy happens in the world. But yeah. All right. So DXY retested this EMA here on the weekly time frame. This one looks similar to, I can't remember which pair it was. This one kind of looks similar to GBP AUD, but on the daily time frame. Kind of. Where we have a rejection of the EMA prices, has this little elbow right here, right next to the EMA. I think that's kind of what caught my eye, is this elbow right at the EMA, and then we have a doji rejection candle, and then we kind of sell on down. Same thing we're seeing here. We have an elbow, we're selling, and we should probably will continue to sell to the downside from here. So DXY, I expect to, especially if we can break underneath the daily EMA. We've already broken underneath the 4 hour, so that's a pretty big step. If we can continue, like if we can retest this previous structure right here, if we can retest this structure right here, maybe this little area, then we could probably see price continuing to sell. So that's kind of what I expect to see. If not, if we break above the 4 hour EMA for some reason, then we'll probably see the buyers coming back in and taking over. But until then, I think we might break through this EMA, retest it, and then kind of just continue to sell with the DXY. All right, so we've already gone over this one. At this point, all I'm expecting is continuation. I think the reason we're having this pullback, if you see the candle I entered on, and that was one of my biggest, I think I was kind of skeptical to enter the trade because of this 1 hour candle. And then the one that I entered on was no better. It was also a doji candle. So that doji was the bottom of this move, kind of the way it was right here. Then we had this pullback, and then we had the continuation. So hopefully this pullback doesn't take us out. But at a certain point, I expect price to retest and then just to continue to sell with the higher time frames. Yeah. Retesting the weekly EMA and the daily EMA. Market structure here is pretty clear. When we reach a certain point, price rejects very aggressively. I think we're kind of in this situation. If you'll notice, there's a little bit of a pattern. So we have these rejection candles. We have a rejection candle, and then while we're selling, we usually hit some resistance halfway down or at a certain point on the way down, which is a pullback. So you get one or two candles of pulling back. I think that's exactly where we're at. We're kind of selling and we're in the pulling back phase before we'll get that continuation to the downside, and then we get the continuation to the downside. So if you want to wait, the price literally isn't going anywhere. Well, other than going down, I guess. But yeah, you should be good to enter the trade on your own accord whenever you feel like price is ready, whenever it's done pulling back. All right, so on to the trades that we were interested in initially yesterday. So we had NZD CAD for sells and AUD CAD for buys. These two were kind of trading against each other in a certain way. Here, daily time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. Here, the weekly time frame is bullish versus here, the weekly time frame is bearish. So we have a bit of a opposing outlook on the higher time frames. Overall, NZD CAD is selling. And overall here, I guess we're kind of doing the same thing. I guess we're kind of selling on the monthly time frame, but but we will see. All right, so I'm still kind of waiting for price to really determine what's going to happen. We closed with a daily rejection candle on Friday, and then today we closed with a pullback candle. Now, this pullback candle could simply be just that. It is a pullback, sell, pullback, continuation to sell. It's a pretty common theme. You sell, you pull back, continuation to sell, pull back, or here is a buy, but here, sell, pull back, continuation to sell, pull back. So it could be one of those situations where we're about to see a lot more selling happening, or this could be the break, retest of the EMA to continue to buy. So there's two ways to look at it, right? Realistically, let's see. I think we're going to know pretty soon what price is going to want to do. In fact, I kind of already have an idea. I think it's going to sell simply because we're failing to buy. And we're also creating a head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour time frame, which is showing us that this might be a reversal, especially considering the fact that I think the reason that we're having this reversal, or the reason we haven't seen the sellers here yet, is because of this EMA on the 4-hour time frame. Obviously, NZD CAD doesn't have an EMA; it has an area of interest. But let's say price decides to close with a bearish engulfing candle that closes below this structure point. At that point, you can kind of determine, okay, we're probably just going to get a pullback to continue to sell at this point. So yeah, that's why those two I could have entered. In fact, I was at a certain point, I think I was tempted to enter buys on AUD CAD. I even sent it, I think, to the Discord. I think I said considering buys in AUD CAD. Yeah, so that was at 12:30. That was like literally at the top right here. So I saw price was closing above these structures here, and I was like, okay, if I can see more buying, I'm gonna consider entering, or I was considering entering. But as you can see, we've kind of been trading very, very slowly inside of this like channel. So if price was to break out super aggressively, then we would know that, okay, the buyers are in control. I think that we're done selling. And if we break out to the downside, which in my opinion is more likely, similar to the way we're trading right here, right? So we're trading inside of this channel, price broke out, retested, sold. If price breaks out, we just wait for a retest underneath the EMA, sold, retest, sell, okay? And it would be the same thing on NZD CAD. In fact, NZD CAD would be preferable because weekly time frame is bearish, and the 4-hour time frame is also currently bearish. So if you want to be safe, you wait for price to break and retest underneath the 4-hour EMA, which I don't think is necessary. I think a proper break and retest of the 2-hour EMA would be enough. I think that would be respectable enough for price. The 4-hour EMA is kind of far away, but the 2-hour is right there. Break and retest of the 2-hour EMA, and we should be good. So break and retest of the 2-hour EMA and structures. All right. And then for this one, for buys, since we have weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame bullish, that's the only reason we're really considering the buys here. 4-hour time frame is currently bearish. For buys, I would honestly wait for a break above this structure. I'd wait for the 4 hour time frame to go bullish. So waiting for 4 hour to shift bullish. All right. So that's what we'd be waiting for each of those. And then obviously at a certain point, if the daily goes bearish, say we close down here, then we'll wait for a retest of all of this stuff to continue to sell. And that's when you can make some real good money because you have such a nice area of interest right here. And then, break, retest, and continuation. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Moving on. Euro USD. Euro USD weekly time frame, bullish. Daily time frame is bearish. So we have this lower low, pull back, sell, pull back into the EMA. So we tried very, very hard to close above this daily structure. We tried multiple times. So we tried right here, we tried with this candlestick wick, and we failed. At a certain point, you have to believe that the sellers are going to be in control now because the buyers failed all of their attempts to push the market up. And the EMA here is also in a position where it can hold price down. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the lower time frames are doing. So yeah, we have this basically higher high, and we're creating the higher low. Now, at this point, price could very easily make us look stupid or make me look stupid and create the next higher high. And then the daily time frame shifts bullish and all is good for buys. However, all it takes is one more bearish candle and the 4 hour time frame shifts bearish, right? And then we just need a lower high to create the next lower low. Then we'll have two bearish time frames to take sells. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. First of all, we're going to be waiting for buys. I would wait for the daily time frame to shift bullish. And for sells, my nose is starting to run. For sells, I would look for price to break underneath the EMA, or at the very minimum for sells, shift the structure on the 4 hour time frame, and then, or I can say, or break and retest under the EMA. And then for buys, obviously, I would like to see the 4 hour, the daily time frame shift bullish. I'm not going to lie, but we'll wait and see what happens with that. For now, I think I'm going to focus on the sells, but there's an option for both. Like we still have it drawn up. There's an option for both. In fact, tomorrow, let's say tomorrow we close with a bearish engulfing candle on the daily time frame, right? Like that. Oh boy, right? That's going to be spectacular. And another thing to consider is the fact that if Euro USD is going to be doing this, if we look at all the other USD pairs, they're also setting up to be doing something just as nice. Here, we're setting up for buys, right? If we get a rejection of this daily EMA, we're going to be taking off to the upside. NZD, where is NZD USD? I switched all of these from buys to sells, but NZD USD, same thing. We're actually now in a good position to be selling from the previous structure right here. So realistically, we could be at the top of one of these moves waiting to, let's see. Oh, and you look at that. We already have a daily bearish engulfing candle. 4 hour time frame is about to shift bearish. So yeah, for a lot of these, I would actually consider reconsidering the direction that price is going to head towards. Okay, so where were we? Euro USD. So yeah, I'm going to mark this down for sells because that's kind of the initial thought that I was having at the beginning last week. So we're switching back to where we were last week, basically. I think this was just a very, very aggressive pullback, maybe due to the holidays. I don't think that it really had anything to do with the holidays. I think it was more so just the markets needed to react to get a pullback before having any more continuations in any direction. So here, ideally, would be looking for sells. USD CAD, ideally, would be looking for buys. Weekly time frame did shift bearish, which sucks. I think that's going to be one of the biggest downsides of this current moment is the fact that this did shift bearish. Now, it kind of reminds me of this structure that we created. So where price was clearly moving downwards, and then we had this super aggressive pullback. I mean, it almost looks identical to what we're looking at right here, if you guys noticed. What was this pullback, you ask? This was a pullback. So we broke underneath the EMA, retested the EMA, and then we continued to sell. If we were to invert this, it would look exactly the same. So you have your buys, you broke above the EMA, pull back into the EMA to have that continuation to the upside. So I think that's exactly what we're looking at right now. If you want to be safe, there's a chance we might close with a weekly doji rejection candle. At that point, I think you'd have a better idea of what price is actually going to do. So to be safe, I would wait for, once again, the 4-hour time frame to shift above the EMA. That might force us to be patient for a couple of days, but that would also save us a lot of headache and potential lost money. Yeah, so let's go ahead and so the 4-hour time frame did shift bullish though. That's one thing. Lower low, shades of structure, higher high. At this point, you do have 2 time frames in sync to buy. That's one thing. Like if you're feeling risky, which I kind of am, this is not a terrible idea. You have your rejection candle. The only thing is you could be stuck in this little bit of a whatever this is. In fact, go ahead and replay mode. Whatever happened here. So 4-hour time frame. What was going on here? Well, at a certain point, we were very far from the EMA, right? We're very far from the EMA, and we had to wait for the EMA to catch up to price. As soon as that happened, as soon as we shifted, we retested the EMA on the 4-hour time frame, and then price just dropped. That's kind of what I'm looking to do. Now, if you are feeling some type of way and you're feeling like, okay, well, let's pretend like this is where we are right now, which is kind of where we are. We have this kind of shift of structure, market structure was created. That's where we are right now. If you set your stop loss right on like underneath the current structure, that is 68 pips. That is huge. But you could, if you're willing to sit through a bunch of drawdown, you could technically take a trade right here. However, if you waited for this, you could tighten your stop loss and then you get a much better risk to reward out of the trade. And it is almost zero drawdown because you were patient, right? So yeah, we're literally in that same situation right now. If you enter right now, you'll probably be okay. Like stop loss, if you want to be safe underneath this wick. And if you're targeting this double top right here, you're getting a 1 to 2 or 1 to 2.5. Not bad. However, if you wait for price to bounce around, shift, retest, buy, then you can tighten your stop loss, same risk to reward or same target, risk to reward becomes a 1 to 6. So yeah, patience pays. All right. Enough about that. Let us, so here I'm just going to be waiting for 4-hour shift above EMA. All right, so we're just going to be waiting for that to happen. All right, Euro CHF. Euro CHF weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame has basically already had the pullback and the engulfing candle. Now, this isn't really my favorite pair. It's a very, very, very choppy market on the daily time frame. But you could enter a trade. If you entered a trade right here, for example, what is this? April of 2025. You are what, 6 months later, 7 months later, 8 months later, still in the same place. You literally have not moved. So personally, not interested in being a part of this type of a market. I think I just I don't know why I chose this one realistically. Oh yeah, well my profit target was okay, there it is. Okay, this line was my profit target, right? So we're on our way to the profit target. We're very, very close to it. So if you had kind of followed this, where was it? Friday. Yeah, Friday was right here. Price pulled back and then pushed higher. I don't even see how you could have entered this market. I mean, if you entered here, I don't know where you would have set your stop loss. You're only getting like a 1 to 2 out of this either way. Maybe after this rejection candle, you can get like a 1 to 1.5 if you target that structure point up there. I'm not going to be interested in this. I'm just going to keep waiting to see what price does. Let's continue. Let's toss that down here with the other CHF pairs. All right, Euro GBP weekly time frame is bullish, pulled back into the EMA or into the area of interest, excuse me. Daily time frame pulled back into the EMA, had reactions from the EMA. 4-hour time frame has now successfully shifted above the 4-hour EMA. I think this trade is gone. We should have entered it at some points up here, like as soon as price had retested. So yeah, market open, we retested these structure points right here with this candle right there. And then we had this engulfing above the 1-hour EMA. I don't think we pulled back far enough. I would have preferred to see price pull back into the area of interest, but at this point, it's too late for that. But yeah, the move happened kind of the way we were expecting it to. At the current moment, I do expect a continuation. Like the move's not over. The move is going to continue, probably pressing up until we have a new higher high on the weekly time frame, shift the structure on the daily time frame, so on and so forth. So if you guys are interested in taking a trade at the current place we are in, we're kind of in a situation like this where we've had a nice push up, we're having a small little pullback, and then we'll probably have a nice continuation. The only question is, are you going to be able to catch the bottom, or are you going to be able to catch this pullback and have a stop loss in a good enough place to where you don't get wicked out by any further pullbacks? Yeah, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. 4-hour time frame is still currently bearish. It should shift bullish shortly. And then maybe that's when you'll be able to enter. As of right now, I'm not interested. Euro NZD, on the other hand, is looking nice. Weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish, but we are reacting from this daily EMA. In fact, we're getting a similar reaction to the ones we've had in the past, where we have retest of the EMA, doji rejection candle, retest of the EMA, bullish engulfing candle, retest of the EMA, doji, and bullish engulfing candle. So looking very, very similar to having a turnaround as we've had in the past. 4-hour time frame has already shifted bullish. 4-hour time frame has shifted bullish. We are shifting above some of the lower time frame EMAs. I think, yeah, so we have already shifted above the 30-minute, which is nice. I might I might enter this one at some point. If we get like a nice push to the upside, I think I might enter one. I just don't know how tight my stop loss is going to be. That's huge. 60 pips. Even if you were to enter now and have your stop loss underneath the low, it's 75. Now the return is huge. The return could be quite nice. You're basically targeting the highs. That's a 1 to 4. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see potentially a 1 to 7 if you tighten it up further. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I just don't love the fact that we have such big stop losses. That's why for this one, I had a 25-point stop loss. It was a very, very aggressive entry. And if I could get the same thing again, I'll definitely consider trying to get into this move. All right. So at this point, yeah, so there's still two options, I guess. The first option was waiting for the 15-minute push to the upside. That kind of already happened. I'd say right here. This is Friday, Friday, Friday. Sunday, market opened, literally pushed up aggressively right there, pulled back, mitigated price, and then kind of started this uptrend. From here on out, I do believe price should continue staying above the 15-minute, 30-minute EMAs, 1-hour EMAs. Each one we shift above, we should kind of maintain ourselves above. But the best one will obviously be the 4-hour EMA, a break and retest above, similar to right here, or maybe right here would be the best option. Or the safest option, because then you don't have any major swings in the price action. As soon as you get a break above, proper retest, then you can get that nice continuation without too many issues. So yeah, 4-hour time frame is bullish, weekly time frame is bullish. Only thing that is bearish is the daily time frame. All right, let's go ahead and get into some of these over here. We went over both of these. Euro CAD, weekly time frame, bearish, daily time frame, bearish, and 4-hour time frame is also bearish. I don't love the fact that we're kind of moving sideways. I do see how price could be creating structures to the downside. Like we're moving up, and then all of a sudden we're failing to create those higher structures. We're actually slowing down and we're turning around at a certain point. Like we were above the EMA mostly, now we're below the EMA mostly on the 4-hour time frame. I could see price from here rejecting and selling at the very minimum into this area of interest right here. So if you're a scalper, this is amazing. You have a great structure point where you can target this area of interest, but it would be much nicer to see price basically engulf to the downside, right? So if you get a bearish engulfing candle here, and then the next day, all you would look for, let's call this our bearish engulfing candle to the downside. The following day, you're just waiting for a wick up and then a candle down. So that would be the continuation to the downside there. Okay, so we're just waiting for the break and retest of that. Yeah, so this one is nice. I do like this quite a lot for sells. Now, if we're not underneath this area of interest, I don't really like the idea of trading this at all. But if we can get a break and retest underneath the daily EMA, underneath the daily area of interest, and the 4-hour EMA, like what would be even nicer than just a break and retest here would be a nice slow break and retest, because then it would allow the EMA to catch up to price like this. And then we're basically selling, 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 slow pullback, slow pullback, slow pullback, and then bam, very, very aggressive sell. If there's a good example of that, I'd like to find one, but this pair doesn't really do what we want it to do. I guess this could be an example of that. Like you have a very aggressive sell, and then you pull back, pull back, pull back, pull back, just to continue to sell, and so on and so forth. It may not happen exactly like we want it to happen, but overall, I do believe that this should happen underneath this area right here. And then at that point, you wait for price to shift underneath your um EMA. So like for this pullback, we shifted above the 30-minute EMA. But as soon as we shift back below, retest, then we have all the selling happening, right? So it's kind of what we're waiting for, even for the current moment. Like if price would sell and then retest, chances of us breaking back above aren't impossible. Like here, we sold underneath, retested, we broke above only to sell back below. That's why you have to wait for maybe one or two of those retests that would confirm this move to the downside. But yeah, if it does break back above, it might just be filling in some empty space, tapping into some liquidity, into some supply, and then heading to the downside there. So for this one, I do want to see break and retest underneath the neckline to sell. I don't hate this. I just don't think it'll be ready. Like it'll be ready this week. I do feel like. Let's see, weekly time frame. Yeah, it should be ready this week, to be honest. And if not this week, then sometime early next week. Because you have to understand that this could be a full daily, like if we get one bearish candle that does this, then it could take 3 or 4 days to have this pullback, right? You could do this for like almost an entire week right here, 1, 2, 3 days. And then next thing you know, we have that move to the downside. So we're kind of playing the waiting game here. All right, moving on. NZD/USD weekly time frame is bearish still. Now, we have done this before in the same area where price has created a bit of choppiness, literally within the same area, like from here to here. This is an area of choppiness. So from here to here, we can basically either expect price to bounce around for a while, or if you want to be really safe, you wait for price to actually close underneath and then retest these structures to sell. Now, this is happening on the weekly time frame, so you're talking about waiting for potentially a month or two. I'm not a huge fan of that. So that being said, what I'm thinking might happen is we might actually bounce around. Let me see. Yeah, I think we might enter like in a perfect world, right? In my perfect world, the world that exists only inside of my head. Price from here will just sell, right? We will have no resistance, we'll just continue to sell. But what I'm seeing from the past is that from here we could see selling, but that selling could only last until this area of interest. As you can see here, when we broke above, we actually retested the area of interest. We bought back above, so we would get taken out of the trade by this move, and then eventually you get the sell, and then you kind of move up, retest the area of interest, then you buy, then you move down. You see how it kind of does the same thing over and over again. We don't want to get caught in like all of this, you know. But if we're just looking at it from purely market analysis, like this is what we want it to do, and we're not going to stop until that's what it does, then we should be able to take sells from up here and hope for the best. Obviously, weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bullish. And that's another thing. Like the daily time frame shifted bullish. If the daily time frame shifted bullish, chances of us creating another higher high are pretty high. In fact, we could just be creating a higher high to create a head and shoulders or a double top, and then just from here sell further down. A lot can happen in this area we're currently in. But if we're purely analyzing it based on the confluences that we know and not just like trying to predict what's going to happen, weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bullish, 4-hour time frame is currently bullish. Now, if we close here, then the 4-hour time frame will go bearish, and we'll have two bearish time frames in order to sell. Okay, that is all good. If you're going to be, actually, that's exactly probably what you need to wait for. Now that I think about it, yeah, you just wait for your 4-hour shift to structure or 4-hour EMA. Now, the reason we saw, if we move over here, the reason we saw price doing whatever it was doing is because of the 4-hour EMA. See, we were above, then we retested the area of interest and the EMA, and then that's what pushed price higher. However, as soon as we shifted back underneath the EMA, we were able to sell. Okay, so I think that's what we should probably wait for, which has given us the best entries and things like that. You see how we took most of our losses when price was above the EMA. There's two losses right there and whatnot. So if we try to sell from here, sure, you might be in profit for a little while, maybe for a 1-to-1. But as soon as price reacts from this EMA here, price might shoot straight through your stop loss, wick you out, just like it wicked me out right here, and then create the lower low, shift the structure, and the move. So I would like to wait for 4-hour shift under EMA. And that's what I'll be waiting for. It might take a day, might take 2 days, might take 3 days. But I will be looking to sell. Actually, we should probably add that to our notes. To sell. 4-hour shift under the EMA to sell. If you're going to be scalping, you could probably scalp it into the 4-hour EMA. In my opinion, price is probably already on its way down to retest the 4-hour EMA. Obviously, that's not guaranteed. But as soon as you see the 4-hour shift bearish, for example, in the next 2 hours and 58 minutes, if the 4-hour shifts bearish right here, then you could wait for the lower high and then the next lower low. All right. NZD/USD, we have gone over. I'm actually going to put this at the top right here because we're going to want to revisit our analysis as soon as possible tomorrow. It's not going to be one that I put on the list that we're interested in, simply because we're going to have to reanalyze it in a day or two when it's finally doing what we want it to do. All right, so GBP/USD, we went over this. GBP, I mean Euro GBP. GBP/USD weekly time frame is bullish. So here the weekly time frame is bullish. The daily time frame is reacting from the daily EMA very nicely. Okay, so we took a loss here last week. Very unfortunate loss. But nothing stops us from re-entering this trade, right? Nothing stopping us from hopping in as soon as the 4-hour time frame. So here we have a higher high. In fact, we have already shifted bearish. So we have a higher high, closed above this point. This is our next higher high. This is a higher low. We closed below the higher low. So now we have a lower low, meaning that this is the lower high, lower low, next lower high, next lower low. We want to see price close and retest the 4-hour EMA, similar to the way we did right here. Broke below, retested, and sold. That's what we're going to be waiting for. We are going to wait for the break and retest under the 4-hour EMA. Okay. Break and retest under the 4-hour EMA for sells. I think that's kind of implied by the under part of this sentence, but just to be specific because details matter. All right. Yeah, it's not bad. It sucks that we have, okay, so this the 4-hour time frame has shifted bearish as well. So that's why it's important for us to see the break and retest under the EMA. because the weekly time frame has technically gone bullish. And the only thing stopping price from not having a continuation on the weekly time frame, right? So if we like price is very, very fractal, means it does the same thing on multiple time frames, and you can see the same patterns everywhere, right? So if we were talking about the 4 hour time frame, we could compare that to the weekly time frame, so on and so forth. But since this one is bullish, what is stopping this from continuing to go up? That would be the daily previous structure, right? Right here. And guess what is also in the same area as this daily previous structure, this double bottom? So this is the neckline right here, which is an area of interest, which we are currently above. However, then something that is stopping price from selling, continuing to sell is going to be that structure and also this EMA. So as soon as we confirm that the EMA is going to get broken underneath and used as a resistance, then we know that it's also going to break through the area of interest, and it's also going to break through the neckline of the double bottom. So it's like confirming multiple things. It's like a checklist that we're just checking off. It's like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. We're good to enter our trade. All right. So GBP USD we covered. AUD USD, once again, we're going to have to kind of adapt our analysis. Weekly time frame closed bullish, which sucks for us, but there's nothing we can do about it. Daily time frame is also bullish. So if you're taking any trades on this, it's going to be a counter trend trade with only the 4 hour time frame in sync. So you have to understand that that is a bit of a risky operation. To make it less risky, once again, you wait for the 4 hour time frame to shift. At this point, price might sell into the 4 hour, EMA, pull back into the area of interest one more time, and then break back below. Say that 5 times fast. And then, so we wait for this to happen. And you can see how this kind of creates a head and shoulders pattern, right? So you have your shoulder, head, shoulder, and the next shoulder is created by this EMA, which pushes price back up. And then eventually you break below, retest the neckline of the head and shoulders, confirming that the move to the downside is actually going to happen. Okay, so there's a lot of confirmation, a lot of patience that has to kind of get put into this. And this is the exact same thing that happened right here. So you have your shoulder, head, you hit the EMA, which pushes price up, creating your next shoulder. You break back below the EMA, retesting the EMA, retesting the neckline to eventually sell. So super, super simple, super easy. It just takes some patience. So same exact thing we're waiting for here. This will be a break and retest under the 4 hour EMA to sell. This will be a counter trend trade with only one time frame in sync. As of right now, there's 0 time frames in sync, but we can assume that at the very minimum by tomorrow, there's going to be at least one time frame in sync. Okay. All right, let's try to zoom through some of these. Weekly time frame had a bearish engulfing. Now we're having a pullback. I think this one's almost ready, to be honest. Daily time frame has had a push to the downside. Now we're having a pullback. 4 hour time frame has had a push to the downside. Now we're having a pullback into the EMA. This one's probably going to hop onto my list here. Yeah, would you look at that? Having a rejection from this 30-minute EMA there as well. Kind of doing the same thing on Euro AUD. GBP AUD and Euro AUD are not exactly the same, but they are similar in some way. No problem, man. This will be on YouTube within like an hour of me finishing the call. I always just like upload the file, then I go do my business, go do whatever I'm doing, and then I come back to the computer, type in the description, and then I'm done. It does the work for me. Okay, so yeah, Euro AUD is going to be a good one as well. I have a feeling we just got to wait for this pullback to end. And this pullback will most likely end when price shifts back underneath the 30-minute EMA. We're currently above the 30-minute EMA. So from here, we might actually continue to buy. As soon as we have this huge rejection to the downside, maybe a retest to previous structure at that point, then will we be able to know that the pullback is over and that the selling will probably take over, or the selling will probably begin. So waiting for pullback to end in order to sell. And we're kind of selling underneath this, all of these structures into most likely these ones down here. You have somewhat of an area of interest right inside of this area, right there. So you have one, a few wicks, 2, 3, 4, 5 structure, another wick. So good area of interest to target for your take profit. All right, so AUD USD, we already went over. GBP CAD. GBP CAD. This one's a bit of a bumpy one. Weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, daily time frame is bullish. Weekly time frame is bearish. 4-hour time frame is, I'm not even like trying to get into this one. This one's just, it's very, very choppy right now. In my opinion, I do think price should break back above, retest above the EMA and continue to buy. Since we're moving upwards, right? Overall, kind of still moving upwards. It's just that sometimes, in fact, we already closed with the daily doji. Wow, excuse me. We already closed with the daily doji right here. So the next candle might actually be a bullish engulfing, which pushes us above that daily EMA. That daily EMA is what it's causing this pullback, retesting this triple, quadruple bottom. So yeah, at this point, I do believe we should get a break and retest above these. So we even created a double bottom. So let's say we have a nice bullish engulfing candle from here, like we close up here. So what do we have here? We have a double bottom, and then all we wait for is a pullback to retest the neckline, to retest the EMA in order to continue to buy. So that's kind of what I'm seeing there. GBP, NZD weekly time frame is currently bullish. Daily time frame is currently bearish and underneath the EMA. 4-hour time frame is currently just creating lower lows, not seeing too much here in order for us to take a trade. So yeah, we have 2 bearish time frames, but we're at an area of interest. Not looking too fancy for me, so I'm just going to skip it. JPY pairs, having that daily pullback, pulling back. CHF JPY, would you look at that? So CHF JPY, still, like, we had this marked up for sells last week, and then price basically invalidated didn't invalidate, but it shifted bullish on the 4-hour time frame. So we were bearish, we had to shift the structure, lower low, and then we broke back above this point. We had a higher high, and since then we haven't really, here we had a lower low, then we had a higher high. So it's been super choppy, and that's kind of what you see with pullbacks most of the time, is they'll be choppy, inconsistent, hard to trade. But once the real move happens, which is going to be down here, at that point, you will be able to catch a better trade. So in terms of JPY pairs, I think we're just going to be waiting for the daily pullback to happen. NZD JPY has a far way to go. Even if we move our area of interest just to, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points plus this wick. I don't know. I mean, you could realistically, this one has so many structure points, it's hard to pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Huh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess that's the best area of interest I can come up with. But okay, so if that's that, then we have an area of interest here. No, we don't really have an area of interest here. Same thing here, area of interest is far. This one we kind of blew straight past whatever I had marked up. Not sure why I have it there. But we are nearing this. Actually, we already retested this previous structure, so that's good to see. We retested this previous structure right here. I think JPY pairs are preparing to have a move to the upside, but it's not guaranteed just yet. So here we've shifted underneath the EMA, on most of these JPY pairs. I would be more interested in seeing, yeah. So I'd be more interested in seeing a reaction and then considering taking buy. So if we had like a daily doji signaling the end of this pullback, that would be spectacular. Or like a shift the structure above the 4-hour EMA. So for example, here, if price pulled back into the EMA, failed to break above, and then kind of eventually broke above, retested and bought, that would be my perfect scenario. Now, if that is to happen, right? So let's say that does happen, whatever I just drew out, this pullback, and then sell, and then kind of at this point right here, let's say the daily closes, what would this candle be on the daily candle, on a daily time frame? That would be a doji with a wick to the upside, a wick to the downside, right? That would be this candle right here. And then the next day is when we wait for the small wick. And then the next candle is going to be the one that breaks above the 4-hour EMA, right? So that would be this candle, which actually breaks above the 4-hour EMA. And then, I mean, this one realistically, since it's a daily candle, could end up closing like way up here, you know? But the general idea is we won't trade until we can successfully close above that daily or that 4-hour EMA. For USD JPY, I think it's a little bit further away from the EMA than for some of these. For some of these, we might just quick, easy, bullish engulfing. Next thing you know, you're above all of this stuff here. So for JPY pairs, I'm just going to stay away from them currently. I want to see that daily rejection candle, whether that's a bullish engulfing or a doji. Still going to be waiting on that. And then finally moving on to the CHF pairs. Try to wrap this up quickly. Weekly time frame is bullish on Euro. Wow, Euro CHF is bullish. We're bearish on AUD CHF, bearish on CAD CHF, bullish on GBP CHF, bullish on NZD CHF, and bullish on USD CHF. So there's a lot of opposing price action. Some of them are bullish, others are bearish. Now, one thing I will note is the fact that it looks like a lot of these have kind of had a turnaround. So here we have a double bottom. We've retested and engulfed. So that shows me that buyers are probably going to continue. Here, we never pulled back on the daily time frame to have our buys. That sucks. Here, we actually did have a pullback into the 4-hour EMA. From here, we might actually see the buyers taking over. Same thing here. Pull back into the 4-hour EMA. USD CHF is one that broke underneath the 4-hour EMA, retested, sold, but now we're back above. So I do believe that this one of all of them, weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bearish, 4-hour time frame is now bullish. So we have a lower low and another lower low. We have a shift of structure. So now price is bullish. This is our higher low, and this is our higher high. So at this point, it's up to you guys to find an area to enter the trade. Right? I do think that this one is more or less ready to enter for buys. We have our daily rejection candle right here from the EMA. All I could envision is the next candle being a bullish candle that kind of engulfs all of this pullback right here. Yeah, so this one is one that I would be interested in. Not sure where I would enter, but it is one that is catching my eye. Weekly time frame bullish, daily time frame bearish, but 4-hour time frame is bullish. So, I mean, in a perfect world, it would be a push, pullback, retest of the EMA, retest of this previous structure, maybe even a little head and shoulders pattern, like this, to where you have your shoulder, head, shoulder, retest the neckline, retest of the EMA, to continues to buy. Any of those options sound fantastic, right? So kind of a break and retest above 4-hour EMA. All right, so now let's go ahead and order these, see which ones we prefer. Break and retest above the 4-hour EMA. This one is a pullback, so this one's going to go above. NZD is going to be a break and retest underneath, break and retest underneath, break and retest above, break and retest above or below. What? 4-hour. Okay, yeah, 4-hour EMA. Break and retest above and break and retest above. So all of these are break and retests above the 4-hour EMAs. Now, you guys can kind of determine which one is closer, which one is further. I think this one will probably be closer. Not really, not really. Maybe this one goes above USD CAD. Yep. And this one's kind of far away. And switch. Wait a minute. Yeah, we'll switch these two. I mean, at this point, like it is, we've determined what we want. At this point, it's just like some might move faster than others. It's not like a science. It's more of an art of determining which ones will be ready first or last. It has more to do with what's needed rather than how far it needs to go, if that makes sense. So if it's a daily pullback, it'll take more time because it's on the daily time frame. If it's on the 4-hour time frame, it'll be a 4-hour pullback versus a 4-hour, break and retest. Those will could take anywhere from a day to a couple of days. But yeah, that is basically it for today, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.